is I Do Damage, and welcome back to the channel. In this Gunfire Reborn video, I want to share some tips and tricks that I wish I would have known earlier on in my adventure. Before we start, we did it. We hit 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, and wow, I am just shocked. We'll have a video talking about all that once my surprise gets here next week that I have in store for you guys. With that in mind, let's go ahead and talk Gunfire Reborn. Tip number one is for the gun called Illusion. If you're like me, when you first get the gun, you just click to shoot it. Each time you click, you're like, well, this gun sucks. What you got to do to make the gun fun and useful is hold down the shoot button, because what that's going to do is make the gun shoot faster and faster, and more projectiles will come out the longer you hold down the button. If you're like me, once you've figured that out for the gun Illusion, it's actually a real blast to play, pun intended. Tip number two, there's a setting within the UI that you can go to toggle off your swapping to your third weapon, your Foundry, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the gun that you initially get, the Foundry, is on your slot 3, and you're going to be using 2 special guns that you want to swap between those. And sometimes you'll accidentally swap to your third crappy weapon, I guess to say, no, it's not that crappy. So to prevent that, you can just go into your settings and toggle this setting to prevent from switching over to the Foundry gun while you're in the middle of a gunfight. Tip number 3, and I had this earlier on written down in my notes of something that I wanted to talk about, but this was guns and how to find upgrades as you go throughout, and it should just be common sense, right? But when I first started playing, I thought a higher plus on a weapon just meant that it was better. That's not always true. Inscriptions play a bigger role into that, which inscriptions are a whole beast on their own. But tip number 3 is when you very first start out early game, do check what level the gun is. Is it a +1, a +2? I think the highest you can get to drop is either a 2 or 3 before the very first boss. And plus them up as you go. And I guess along with this tip as well is do look at the inscriptions on the gun. Tip number 4, and this is a really simple quality of life, and I don't know if many people actually use it, but if you want to quick compare items on the fly, if you see a gun laying on the ground, you can press V to pull up the compare screen. You can see the one that dropped and your 1 and 2 slot weapons, so you can do side-by-side comparisons there, making it a lot easier and saving you some time in the process. These next 2 tips are going to relate to the jumping puzzles, which I hate. I'll be honest with you, I do not enjoy the jumping puzzles in the game, but I did learn while streaming that if you use the Foundry, which is your starter weapon that we talked about earlier in the video, if you use that, you actually weigh less and can move slightly faster, which will give you that advantage when trying to jump through these puzzles and getting those free scrolls, right? So tip number 5 then, use the Foundry while doing jumping puzzles so that you can get through them easier and quicker. And another tip when it comes to the jumping puzzles, so tip number 6 I think we're on now, is when to dodge during your jump. When you jump, you need to think of it as an arc, and when you're about to start to come down from the arc, so towards the end of your jump is when you want to dodge. You don't want to jump dodge, because what that's going to do is not give you as much projectile speed and momentum to get across the gap. So by dodging towards the tail end of your jump, you'll make that ledge and be able to get through those jumping puzzles a little bit easier. I wish I would have learned that earlier on in the game, but there you go. Now that you know. A few more tips for you here. Tip number 7, your weapon sometimes will have, you'll see the letter B on there, and that's just so you can switch the way that the gun shoots, like automatic versus semi-automatic, things like that. On to the next tip. Tip number 8 is some weapons have a secondary attack that is used by right-clicking. The Lightning Blast is one example of this, where you can right-click to shoot out this orb, and any bullets that go through that orb do 50% more damage. So keep that in mind as you're getting new guns and trying out new guns, as some of them do have a secondary attack that you can use with right-click. One more tip, and then we'll go ahead and get ready to wrap up the video. Tip number 9, hit colors and what the colors of the numbers mean. So as you're playing, you'll see different colors of damage numbers when you're hitting. You're going to see white, yellow, orange, purple, and a dark red that I have not seen before. The information where I got this from will be down in the description below, but I noticed while going through that your white numbers are obviously just your normal damage dealt. Yellow is when you crit, and crit in this game is actually when you're shooting the enemy in the weak spot. So their head, different enemies have different weak spots, but basically that'll be yellow. And then lucky shot chance is what we would actually think of as a critical hit, like critical hit chance. You're going to see it called lucky shot in the game, lucky shot chance. That's what I think of as actually crit, but that's going to be indicated with orange. And I think if you get a lucky shot chance on while you're shooting a weak spot or a crit, it does even more damage, which is then how you would be able to see your purple and then your dark red types of colors. So there you go, that's your damage number coloring. And last tip I have for you today, this one is, I'm going to try to make it brief, but it's a little bit straightforward, I think, but it's something that I feel like I should just put out there, okay? So when you very first start the game, when you die during a mission, you'll lose all your essences. And if you don't know what essences are, make sure you do check out my impressions video, talks about everything about the game. But essences are currencies you can use towards permanent progression for your character. And when you die, when you first start out, when you die, you lose all those essences at the end of the run. So when first starting, because later on you can unlock a thing to save up to a certain amount of these essences when you die. Maybe kind of a spoiler, I guess. But when you first start out, you want to just kind of use your math skills that you've learned over the year and figure out how to use the most amount of essences while getting the most amount of points at the same time. Basically just add it up in your head so that you have the least amount of wasted essences. That's pretty much the last tip I have for you. So there you go. I know the video was short and sweet. Just a couple tips to help you out with your time in Gunfire Reborn. I'm having a blast. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm like almost at 40 hours played, and I'm still playing. I still fire it up here and then just to chill out, kill some stuff. I love the gameplay. So that's going to wrap it up for the Gunfire Reborn tips and tricks. I hope that you found this video useful in one way or another. If there's any other tips and tricks that I forgot to mention during this video, feel free to drop them down in the comments. Hit me up on Discord, Twitter. All my social media links will be down below for your convenience. I can't thank you guys enough for your time and support with YouTube, Twitch, all of it, man. It's a dream come true for me, and I can't express that enough. You guys are awesome. If you enjoy the video and all the other content on the channel, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell to get notified when I post new videos throughout the week. Like, comment, do all that stuff. You all are awesome. Thank you so much again for your time. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.